So, 1.21.4 just came out. The Garden Awakens, the latest update, just dropped in Minecraft. So, this update added a new biome, the Pale Garden, and it added a ton of new mobs. I mean, it added just one mob, it added a ton of new blocks. And a part of these new blocks is the Pale Oak Tree and the Resin blocks and its variants. And the new mob added was the Creaking. So, the Creaking is a weird mob. But I had this really stupid idea. What if the Creaking could build a house, and if it could, what would the house look like? So, I decided that I would give myself 1 hour to build a house where the Creaking would live. But there's one condition. I only can use the blocks that can be found in the Pale Garden. So that includes all the leaf blocks, the wooden planks and its variants, the moss, grass, the resin blocks and its variants, the vines, everything included in the Pale Garden. So firstly, I'm going to take every single block I can craft with with the items that I can find in the Pale Garden. Okay, now that I have gathered every single block that I can find in the Pale Garden, I think it's about time that I started the video. I'm going to build a house where the Creaking would live if it could build like us. So firstly, I think I'm gonna have to make some space for the house. So what I'm going to do is clear out all these blocks, clear the trees and the leaves, and make a pretty big space where the Creaking could live. So I think this is a pretty decent area to build a house for the Creaking. So if you look at the Creaking's model, it kinda is in a crooked shape and it's 3 blocks tall. So initially I thought of using a door and maybe leaving a block empty above it, kinda going like this, leave that empty and so that the Creaking could enter. But you know what? Since the Creaking is a bit crooked, I would say the door of the Creaking would also be crooked. Something like this. The Creaking would be able to go through here and get out. There's also going to be a tiny little porch where the Creaking can sit with its grandkids. So let's start with the porch. So we are going to be using the pale blocks and the grey blocks mainly that we find here, and for the pop of color we are going to be using the resin blocks because they are a bright orange. I think that's the face of a Creaking. This looks really stupid, but this is also really funny. I wonder if the Creaking will actually fit through here. So I think we are going to go with a window over here. So it will look something like this. Maybe I'll use the fence gate so we can open and close the window. And I'm just going to mirror the same thing right here. The Creaking is so much crooked that I believe he would want his house to be symmetrical, because I can't build anything other than symmetry. I mean, that's totally not the reason. I can build anything. The fact that I can only build symmetry is not the reason that he would want to live in a symmetrical house. So this will be the main frame of the building, and this will be the roof. I think there would also be an attic in the Creaking's house. I mean, the utilities of an attic is too good to ignore, so I think I will also add an attic. So the house is probably gonna be a little bit dark since it's living in a forest. I don't think the Creaking knows what are lights. 10 minutes has gone really fast, so I think I need to pick up the pace a little bit here. So since the Creaking is a crooked mob, I think it's going to go like this and go like this, following a crooked path as well. Yes, that's perfect. The Creaking got itself a nice couch and maybe a tiny coffee table. That's not tiny. So the Creaking has itself a nice couch, a really good looking coffee table, and maybe if I can I replace that? I don't know. I can't. It instantly breaks. Okay. Maybe I can plant it on the moss. Yeah, I can. I think that looks much better. And I don't know. I don't know. I'm so confused. The house is pretty small as well. No. I guess that's fine. The Creaking doesn't need a lot of space. It's alone. So there's a couch here. The Creaking would be sitting on the couch, and I think I'm going to add another chair just in case. If the creaking is feeling extra lonely, it can sit alone on the chair. So, it's going to be a standing table. The creaking could stand over here and think about its life choices all alone. Yeah, I think the creaking would do that. It would be brooding out here, sitting on the table all alone. So it's going to be a short turn, and the door will be right here. I would say the creaking is a bit too tall, so it would need two windows. So I would say the creaking would go out here and I don't know, brood at the window. I don't think a creaking sleeps because it stays awake at night. And during day I think it would go back to its heart, kinda like a genie into a magic lamp. I would say the creaking would definitely go back to where its heart is. It would definitely go back into its heart. I imagine the creaking would turn into a soul and just go back into its heart during daytime, and during night it just wanders around in its home all alone and give nightmares to unknown players. To give the slopey effect, it's going to be using logs, so it looks kind of look cool. And I don't think I'll be adding the attic because there isn't much space for the attic here, so I don't think there's going to be an attic for the creaking. Now that I think about it, I don't think the creaking would actually have an attic, because why would it need an attic? It doesn't have anything to place here, or does it have any space to wander around in the attic? So I don't think the creaking would have an attic. I would say I would use cobwebs, but since there's no cobwebs in the pale garden, I think I'm going to be using moss blocks, leaves, and this thing, resin clump, to show that it's kinda rotten. So I would say this kinda looks like where the creaking would live. Yeah, perfect. I might also replace a couple more blocks around here. I don't think it's going to be uniform, so I'm just going to do a patch of moss like right here, and a patch right here, and maybe one last patch right here, and a bunch of resin clumps here and there. I think that would look good. This looks like a creaking face, and I would say, yeah, I think that looks pretty good. I'm not much of a builder, but I would say that looks pretty good. And replace a bunch of this with moss as well. So there's going to be a bunch of carpet around here. The moss would have grown a bit too much, Maybe add a slab here, because the creaking's head is a bit too high, and maybe do a bunch of stairs. Yeah, okay, I think that looks pretty good. Also, I would think that the creaking's house would have a bunch more vines, because it's old and it's not really taken care of. So I would say a bunch more vines and a lot of resin clumps. Like the resin clumps is kinda like the disease, so it would be spreading around the house. There's going to be one chair over there on the outside. There's going to be one chair over here, one chair and a standing table, and a sofa, a couch, whatever you call it, over there, and a breeding room over here. What did I say? Breeding room? It's a brooding room. Why do I say that? Oh, what? Okay, a brooding room over there. I would say it looks pretty good. Also, I think I'm going to remove this because the creaking would have a tower around here. The tower is going to be where the creaking scouts out the area and look for players to haunt. And also I would say that's where the creaking heart stays. The creaking should keep its heart somewhere safe so that nobody kills it. So I think a tower is the best way to go for that. I have a surprise for you after the tower too, so the tower is going to be a pretty good addition. The tower is going to be kind of medieval looking tower. It's going to have like a pillar, it's going to have a spiral staircase, and it's going to give off mid 1600s 1800s vibe of England, I think. UK, England, I don't know where, but yeah, it's going to give off that vibe, and it's going to be made of the resin blocks. I mean, the tower really does not need to be perfect because, I mean, the creaking lives here. The tower's gotta be obviously crooked, so I would say the tower does not need to be perfectly aligned, I mean, like perfectly straight, and we are obviously going to be using the same door here. I mean, the tower isn't perfect, but I would say it looks pretty good, you know. So this is going to be my excuse for everything. Because the creaking lives here, the tower needs to be crooked. I think that's going to be my excuse for everything from now on. And I would say this is a good looking tower. And also, there will be a trapdoor hidden among this place. Because the creaking won't have an attic, but it is going to have a basement. So if you can't guess why the creaking would have a basement, I mean, you would find out eventually. Oh yeah, I would definitely say this fits the vibe of the creaking. There's going to be a bunch of heads laying around here. Yeah, this definitely looks kind of like a creaking. The flow pattern definitely looks like that, at least to me. It kind of goes like this and there, and I would say I would place a head there. So the creaking is going to have a bed where it's going to do its experiments. Obviously, I would say a bit of experimentation spilled over here, like splattered around in the room. It will, yeah, it does kind of give like a really old vibes where it's been here for like a century or maybe more than that. There's definitely going to be a lot of leaves here, just piling up on top of another. I would say the heart in the tower looks much better than the one right there, and I think it would also experiment not only with other players but with other creakings as well. So there's going to be another heart right here. So I got exactly 9 more minutes and I have completed the build, so I'm going to stop the timer right now. It didn't take me exactly 1 hour, it took me exactly 51 minutes, I think. Yeah, it took me exactly 51 minutes. Hopefully I'm recording. Yeah, I am. Oh, I was so scared I didn't record any of this. Okay, I am recording. So if any of you have wondered where the new creaking mob would live if it had a house. Oh, that's really close to spawn. Okay, if any of you have actually wondered if where the creaking would live if it could actually build, I would say this is where it would be living. So as soon as we enter, it's going to be a porch with a single chair for the creaking to sit in, and the door is obviously going to be a crooked door to fit the creaking, and there's going to be like a tiny waiting room around here, and then there would be another crooked door for the creaking, and there would be a couch to chill and a standing table because the creaking is always standing. And then if we enter its bedroom, it's not actually a bedroom, it's a brooding room. The creaking will be standing here brooding all alone. Yeah. And if we go outside, there is this tower. So the tower is where the creak. Oh my god, why did I do that to myself? The tower is where the creaking heart is protected very safely. So this heart is well guarded inside the tower, and if you go up, the creaking is actually 3 blocks tall. So yeah, it would be its POV would be kind of like this. It would be watching over the pale garden, looking for players to haunt. And there's also this eye blossoms flower growing out here because the creaking really doesn't take really good care of its towers or its house. So moss, and the resin clumps are actually a disease following the creaking. The creaking is actually a human which turned into the creaking after being affected by the resin. So we don't exactly know what the resin is, but it just gives the creaking the disease it has now. Oof, that was an oversight. Well, moving on. And if we go into the tower, there's also a secret room, which is not a really big secret, but the creaking doesn't have a brain of its own, so it would say this is kept quite secret. So if we remove the torch, this is completely dark, but we can still see some of it. I'm just going to put it right here, just in case you guys can't see. So if we enter, I thought about putting an attic for the creaking, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense why the creaking would have an attic. So I added a basement where the creaking would perform a ton of experiments. I forgot to add a blossom right here. Yeah, the creaking would be performing a lot of experiments in its basement with players, with other creakings, with itself. Yeah, the creaking is a crazy mob. So the players gotta be a little bit more careful when wandering around the pale garden when it's dark, because the creaking does tend to get a bit quirky at night. I would say when it's daytime, the creaking sometimes goes back into its heart, or it comes back down to its basement experimenting on stuff. I don't know what that is. I'll give you a little clue on what those experiments do. Oh no! Oh no, what is that? The creaking does a lot of experiments, and why is this here? That's your clue. You guys gotta wonder what that is. Some of the thing is fresh, so that is bright. Some of them has dried out. You guys, I'll leave it to you guys' imagination. That looks totally epic. So this is the house too. The creaking goes back into its house through the crooked door. There's the waiting room, goes back into another crooked door. There's the couch for chilling. There's the standing table. There's another crooked door and a room for brooding when it can't think and it has nothing to do. And then there's this tower where on the top the creaking scouts out other players and other mobs, maybe other creakings. It scouts out the area and looks after the pale garden because the pale garden is its place. And if you go down, there's a secret room down under the basement, down under the tower, which leads to a basement where the creaking kinda does all sorts of experiments. I mean, it isn't really that pretty, but I would say it looks pretty good for what it is. So, if you guys ever wondered where the creaking would live if it can build an actual house, I would say this is where it would live. It would have a house and a tower so that it can scout out the players and it can brood alone in its house. I mean, if you ask me, that's where the creaking would live. But I'm curious on what you guys would come up with. So, if you guys are interested, you guys can definitely try your best shot at making a better house for the creaking. Like, fire up your imagination and I don't know, build something cool where you think the creaking would live and tag me. I'll check out that video and maybe make it into a YouTube short where I can milk your content for my content. And just kidding, I'll like your video and maybe you can subscribe if it looks really good. So yeah, I would say this is where the creaking would live if it can build a house. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and I'll see you guys in another dumb video.